everybody, and welcome to So Says Shernoff. I'm Josh Shernoff, and we have a great show for you today. We are going to go straight to the WWE Universe to find out what is wrong with the WWE these days, and will Bruce Pritchard fix it? Also, our main story will dive deep into wrestling and social media, but first, it has been a busy few weeks, so let's jump straight into some headlines. How can we talk about the past few weeks' headlines without mentioning the return of Roman Reigns? Easily. Fastlane is this Sunday, and the world title picture. I'm kidding, of course. We're going to talk about Roman Reigns. He is back after seemingly kicking cancer's ass, and I say seemingly because as soon as he returned, the internet went wild. He has hair, he has muscle, he has a new shirt that definitely exploits his battle with cancer. If I was WWE, I would have put a little proceeds go to sticker on there. Unless they feel proceeds go directly to our pockets was a little on the nose. Yes, the internet has called into question the legitimacy of Roman Reigns' cancer, with arguments pointing to the fact that he is now the babyface WWE has been trying to make him for years. These same people will argue that Roman went to film a movie during his time away and just so happened to be back in time for WrestleMania. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, they make a convincing argument. You know who else makes a convincing argument? Leukemia Care. They took to Twitter to educate the WWE Universe on the complexities of the disease. Hey, you know who else makes a great argument? Roman Reigns, the dude who had the cancer. And the worst part is that the naysayers are wrestling fans. These are people who passionately fight for their characters to get that storybook ending they want in a way that allows them to believe it's real. But when the real guy gets a storybook ending, well, that must be fake. Look, to presume one way or the other that my opinion is fact makes me no better than those with opposing views. But I refuse to live in a world where we automatically assume someone is lying about cancer. I'm going to assume the opposite. I'm going to assume that this was real and that Roman Reigns fought to overcome this awful disease and is now going to use his platform to educate people about leukemia. So, congratulations to Roman on being in remission, and congratulations to the WWE for figuring out how to use that remission to make a quick buck. Moving on. Bruce Pritchard has returned to the WWE, and while we will cover that a little later in the show, he isn't the only familiar face to pop up backstage. The WWE is now home to a ton of new producers, from WWE legends like Jeff Jarrett and the Hurricane to TNA stalwarts like Abyss and Sanjay Dutt. The WWE is starting to show signs that they want this new era to actually be different. But when you bring in that much new, you need to make some room. Veteran wrestler and disappointed grandpa Arn Anderson was released from his WWE contract after almost 18 years with the company. Arn was a backstage producer who was seemingly loved by all the wrestlers he worked with. The rumor is that Arn got into a disagreement with Vince McMahon about something at a live event, and that was the final straw. Wrestling reporter and guy trying to taste the joke he's laughing at, Dave Meltzer, has pontificated that had John Cena still been full-time with the company, perhaps Arn never would have been fired. So that makes two things that have dropped since Cena left, the other, of course, being the ratings. And finally, Fastlane is upon us. This Sunday, WWE tries to squeeze one more pay-per-view in before WrestleMania, and it's shaping up to be a show featuring matches. Forgive me if I'm not doing backflips over Asuka versus Mandy Rose, or the Boss and Hug Connection versus that. The only match I'm interested in is the main event. WWE Champion Daniel Bryan versus Kevin Owens. And while I expect it to be a good match, I'm really only here for the finish. I want to see how this ends up with Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston in the main event of WrestleMania. We all know it's happening, and by no, I mean praying the WWE just lets us have this one. Kofi is as deserving of an opportunity as anyone on the roster, more so than most. Unfortunately, the WWE rarely diverts from their original plan, no matter how badly the fans want them to. Except this one guy. Maybe it's time to pay it forward. We'll be right back. Yeah. The best in rock and the best in wrestling come together in the Rock and Wrestling Podcast, hosted by Nick Newman, with weekly guests including Frankie Kazarian from AEW, Eric Bischoff from 83 Weeks, Tony Schiavone from What Happened When, Dizzy Reed of Guns N' Roses, and Rudy Sarzo, formerly of the Ozzy Osbourne Band. Download on all major podcast apps, keep up with us on social media, and check us out on Patreon. The Rock and Wrestling Podcast. Download it now. On March 29th, live on Fight TV, Modern Vintage Wrestling presents Face Off. New Japan's Bullet Club members Chase Owens and Tonga Loa issued an open challenge, which was accepted by former Modern Vintage champions, international star Jason Kincaid and current Impact Wrestling star Killer Cross. C.W. Anderson challenges Joey Lynch in a street fight for the Modern Vintage Wrestling Championship, as well as a special appearance by WWE Hall of Famer Road Warrior Animal. Don't miss this live event on Fight TV March 29th and catch up on the full Modern Vintage library right here on Fight TV. Welcome back. As I mentioned earlier, Bruce Pritchard, seen here enjoying my presence, has re-signed with the WWE. That's right, the gun is back in its holster and Brother Love is back on Vince McMahon's hip. The word is that he has resumed a role he left over a decade ago. If rumors are true, and you know how Bruce loves to deal in rumor and innuendo, Bruce is back as close to the top as a non-McMahon will ever be. So now the important question is, can the return of Bruce Pritchard save the WWE? And if so, how? Now I could have asked him directly, and I am positive that he would have said, how did you get this number? But I decided to go above him, above Vince McMahon. I decided to ask the very folks the McMahons made the Authority back on December 17th, 2018, the WWE Universe. This past week, I went down to Monday Night Raw and asked the WWE Universe those very questions. Can Bruce Pritchard save the WWE? And if so, how? Hello, I'm here at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, home of the Philadelphia Flyers, the 76ers, and In Your House Mind Games. And today I'm going to ask the WWE Universe, what would they do to fix the WWE? And will the return of Bruce Pritchard really help? All right, we're here with WWE World Heavyweight Champion Victor. Victor, if you could change one thing in this company that you are champion of, what would it be?
Well, the way Monday nights are ran, I'll be the whole damn show.
Oh, okay, so you would put yourself into the WWE as a way to fix the company?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, who would you go after right off the bat?
Right off the bat, I would go after Seth Rollins because he's top guy right now, and he's facing Brock at Mania, so I have to take him out and face Brock at Mania.
All right, yeah. I mean, that seems like a plan that's going to end well for you. Do you think Bruce Pritchard's return to the WWE is going to fix the WWE?
I hope so. I mean, things have definitely been going in a better direction than the end of last year.
Right, so what specifically is better now than last year?
There's been a lot less repeat matches week after week after week.
I was going to say, you're looking forward to the Baron Corbin-Braun Strowman match tonight? Yeah.
Yeah, that one's been repeated.
I think that's the third time in the last few weeks. Bruce Pritchard has returned to the WWE after years and years and years. Do you know who Bruce Pritchard is?
I don't.
All right. Do you know who Bruce Pritchard is?
No.
All right. So Bruce Pritchard is back in the WWE. Do you know who Bruce Pritchard is?
Yes.
Okay, you know who Bruce Pritchard is. Do you think that he is the secret sauce, or at least bringing said secret sauce, to fix the WWE, bring it back to its glory days?
I hope so. I'm really like the way that stuff is now, so hopefully he can add to that of how well stuff is going right now, especially with the Women's Revolution.
So other than the Women's Revolution, what else do you like about Raw these days?
Oh, God.
All right, so you made this sign.
Yes.
This is your first Raw.
Yes, it is.
And you love Raw.
Yes.
Okay, why?
Sorry, it's just more like...
Are you guys familiar with Bruce Pritchard?
Brother Love.
Brother Love, yes, Brother Love.
Love you.
What do you think could make the WWE better than it is now?
I honestly don't even know. Like, I just want the McMahons to, like, leave everything alone.
If you could change anything in the WWE, what would it be?
Management.
Okay, so who's getting fired? You're in charge now. Who's getting fired?
Vince.
Okay. All right, so we're just going right to the top, and we're going to work our way down from there. Okay, so what new stuff is happening? Because it does feel a little bit like they're repeating the same thing literally every single week.
Yeah, but the NXT call-ups are a thing that I'm excited to see where they go from here.
So what's the one thing you'd change?
The constant random pop-ups, like NXT superstars, like Johnny Gargano, Ricochet.
So you're talking about the new NXT call-ups, not the 4 NXT call-ups, 3 of which showed up, 1 never showed up, and then they were all brushed aside for the new 4 NXT call-ups, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Do you know who Bruce Pritchard is?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's back, right? And he's going to do some creative. Do you think he's going to fix anything, kind of keep it the same?
Probably do both.
So he'll fix it and keep it the same?
Yeah.
Do you think he's going to make things better or make things worse, keep it the same?
I think he'll keep it the same.
Okay. So he's going to really earn that paycheck.
Yes.
Okay. If you could change one thing about the WWE, what would it be?
The roughness?
The roughness. So you want it to be less violent?
Yes.
Do you know who Bruce Pritchard is?
Of course I do.
Okay. Do you think his return to the WWE is going to help things?
I hope so. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I believe that it's time for Vince to take a break. Take a break from writing Raw because it's going down the drain.
Anything else that you would change about the WWE?
The slamming.
So no slamming.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll turn things a little bit more into, I guess, like more of a kickboxing. Do you think Bruce Pritchard's return to the WWE creative is going to help things or hurt things or keep it the same?
I think it'll help. I see a lot of talent that deserve a push, and hopefully he can bring that talent up.
If there's one thing you could change about the WWE, what would it be?
I would hope that the Attitude Era comes back. I really want the PG era to be gone. I think they should go to TV 14, but it's up to Vince, man.
What part about the Attitude Era? Because there's so many different parts. There's the great stuff, Austin with the beer truck, and then there's the Mae Young in the hand. So there's definitely, the highs and lows.
I think what we need from the Attitude Era is the characteristics, the charisma, and the characters that were brought in the Attitude Era. I think personality should be given to all the wrestlers like that, and I think it'd be a lot better place for them.
Do you think that Bruce Pritchard's return could help the WWE get back to its glory days?
I definitely think anybody with any sort of common sense knows that he could, because the time he was here before, it was really, really good stuff on TV.
I was saying, like Bastion Booger and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah, we missed the Booger guy. He needs to come back. We miss Repo, man. We need characters back in wrestling. Ain't that right, little dude? You tell him. That's right.
Well, Elias, he be telling people like to shut up and all this stuff, so sometimes I want them to come in because he be telling people to shut up. And my mom, today she surprised me because she was saying I was going to Roll of Thunder. So she surprised me, but we really went here.
Oh, that's awesome. What about you? What would you change with the WWE?
It's to remove the Universal title. There's no point in having it, really. Every person who holds it gets hurt. That's it, Universal title, because we need a world title, more history.
It's not just jealousy that you wish you were the champion of the entire universe?
A little bit, yeah. I need that.
She told me my surprise when I got here.
Wow, that's great. Have you ever been to a live show before?
I just my first time, actually, because every day, every Monday, Tuesday, I always watch WWE, and I got WWE Network on my PlayStation.
That is awesome. Well, have a great time. Thank you for talking to me. Well, I don't know that we have any more of an idea of what could fix the WWE than we did before I got here. But one thing is for sure, not everybody knows who Bruce Pritchard is. Josh? Thanks, Josh. When we return, we are going to take a look at social media and pro wrestling. We'll be right back. On March 29th, live on Fight TV, Modern Vintage Wrestling presents Face Off. New Japan's Bullet Club members Chase Owens and Tonga Loa issued an open challenge, which was accepted by former Modern Vintage champions, international star Jason Kincaid and current Impact Wrestling star Killer Cross. C.W. Anderson challenges Joey Lynch in a street fight for the Modern Vintage Wrestling Championship, as well as a special appearance by WWE Hall of Famer Road Warrior Animal. Don't miss this live event on Fight TV March 29th and catch up on the full Modern Vintage library right here on Fight TV. Welcome back. Social media and professional wrestling. The perfect tag team or a bad idea from the start? Is it the Midnight Express or is it the new Midnight Express? Well, the answer is both. Depending on who you are and how you use it, social media can be essential to your success or the disastrous final nail in your career. Take All In. Without social media, that show never happens. That whole event grew out of a tweet. No commercials, no big marketing campaign, just Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And that was smart because unless they were going to advertise on walls of parents' basements, most of their target audience never would have heard about it. And if that offends you, I ask you this. Are you currently in your parents' basement? Social media was the lifeblood of All In, and for that matter, the event that ran alongside it, StarCast. Yes, you could have heard about these events on any of Conrad Thompson's 67 podcasts, but even those wouldn't be as popular as they are without social media. Remember when we talked about Bruce Pritchard being rehired by the WWE? Take social media out of the equation and Something to Wrestle never gets the attention it needed to catapult Bruce back onto the WWE's radar. Social media is responsible for the success of All In, which in turn makes it responsible for the potential success of AEW. It's also responsible for Bruce Pritchard's return to the WWE creative, which could be what turns that company around. So social media is the best thing to happen to pro wrestling since Steve Austin made fun of Jake the Snake's religion. Or is it? Social media may end up saving the wrestling business, but a large majority of wrestling's downturn could be attributed to that same social media. Anyone who grew up a wrestling fan pre-social media could tell you how much better it was to be a fan. I remember arguing with my best friend over whether or not the Ultimate Warrior that returned at WrestleMania 8 was the same guy as before. Today, I would just argue with a bunch of Twitter marks about whether or not a wrestler really has cancer. There is a lighter side of social media as it relates to wrestling. Take this account, @SashaBanksAss, an account solely dedicated to the goings-on of Sasha Banks' rear end. Forgetting about the part of social media that gives a voice to those who should remain voiceless, social media has ruined one of the most important aspects of pro wrestling, kayfabe. Some could argue that it's no different from an actor being on social media talking about a character they play, but this isn't acting. This is pro wrestling. In this bizarre world, the actors are the characters, even if they aren't. Still following? It's not like Anthony Hopkins jumping on Instagram with a picture of his kale salad. It's like Hannibal Lecter tweeting you in the middle of Silence of the Lambs to say, it's not real brains, it's just tofu with food coloring. #plant-based cannibal, #fava beans. The problem is when you see a top heel like Baron Corbin posting videos of him and his real-life buddies, two good guys, by the way, raising money for an animal shelter. That is an objectively wonderful thing he has done. It's the type of thing that makes me feel a little bad about some of the many things I've said about him. Only I shouldn't feel bad. For one, he's terrible. And maybe more importantly, he's a heel. There should not be anything remotely redeeming about this overgrown Gerber baby who looks like he just smelled his own poop. Social media confuses the easily confused masses, and that's a problem for pro wrestling. Take this interaction between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. At first you'd be like, they are totally using social media the right way. They're continuing their TV feud on Twitter. Only when Becky posted her mugshot after being arrested on Raw, Ronda decided to call her out on how fake this photo was. And in fairness to Ronda, It's really fake. This mugshot is so half-assed, it doesn't even look like it was taken in the hallway of a prison, let alone an actual prison photo booth. I assume they're called photo booths. I wouldn't know. I guess I could ask Jimmy Uso. Anyway, Rhonda called Becky out on how fake the photo was, which is a savage response. But while trying to maintain kayfabe, she totally broke kayfabe because Becky Lynch wasn't supposed to be claiming to have been arrested. She was supposed to have been actually arrested. We all saw it on Raw, so all Rhonda did was say, hey, the show is totally fake, but I still want to fight you for attacking me, even though that attack wasn't real. So, you know, nice try, Rhonda. It was vicious, but awful. Kind of like this. Oh. Another problem is outside of the WWE. These indie workers who are trying to get themselves over in all the wrong ways. Now, there are those who genuinely try to promote themselves in a positive manner, but mostly the internet is filled with people trying to get over at their own expense. Take Priscilla Kelly. Here's someone who decided to try and get a pop at a small show in the middle of nowhere. She simulated taking a used tampon. Nope, I'm not gonna. It was gross. Okay, now whether you guys agree with the stunt or not, it was a one-time thing that 20 years ago wouldn't have been anything more than a rumor or story. Today, it went viral. Is that a guarantee that she won't get a job with a big promotion? Of course not. But it absolutely could hurt her if she wanted to go to a family-friendly organization. That company won't want kids Googling Priscilla Kelly and seeing videos and pictures of her taking a bloody... That one is worse. That one's worse. Oh, can we put something less disgusting up there? Thank you. Look, there are lessons to be learned in all of this. With any great power comes great responsibility. Social media has the power to promote and create stars and movements that we could only have dreamt of a decade ago. But it can also destroy young careers and otherwise decent storylines. The takeaway from all of this should be that social media has done as much harm as it has good. Maybe it's time we all close our apps, put down our phones, and just leave the social media behind. Do you agree or disagree? Be sure to let me know on social media. We'll be right back. The best in rock and the best in wrestling come together in the Rock and Wrestling Podcast, hosted by Nick Newman, with weekly guests including Frankie Kazarian from AEW, Eric Bischoff from 83 Weeks, Tony Schiavone from What Happened When, Dizzy Reed of Guns N' Roses, and Rudy Sarzo, formerly of the Ozzy Osbourne Band. Download on all major podcast apps. Keep up with us on social media and check us out on Patreon. The Rock and Wrestling Podcast. Download it now. That's our show. Join us again April 11th when we recap WrestleMania weekend and take a look back at my time at WrestleCon. Keep in touch with the show on our beloved social media, on Twitter @Shernoff Show, on Facebook.com/Shernoff Show. You can find me @SoSaysShernoff and go to SoSaysShernoff.com for all my incredible merch, my future appearances like WrestleCon April 5th and 6th, and so much more. This has been So Says Shernoff because that is what Shernoff had to say. Good night. We're done. We're done.